Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to just for a second think about your local park. You know, that big open green space. Maybe it's got some old swing sets, a path that cuts through the middle. For most of us, these places are symbols of, whoa, ultimate mundane safety.
Right, they're groomed, they're public, they're predictable parts of the suburban landscape. They're just there.
Exactly. They're designed for recreation, for community. We just, we inherently trust them.
But what's fascinating here is how profoundly, deeply unsettling it becomes when that trust, the deeply ingrained expectation of safety, is just completely violated. Our mission today is to dive into source material that takes that safe, familiar location, the public park, and flips it. Just completely turns it into a zone of deep, inexplicable dread.
Exactly. We have 3 separate accounts, all submitted by witnesses, and they detail these unsettling, deeply strange encounters. They're in suburban parks all across different states, even different decades.
And the common thread isn't what you'd expect, is it?
No.
It's not a ghost story, not really. It's not a classic monster narrative. It's the sheer violation of the familiar.
That's the perfect way to put it. When the place that represents community and, I don't know, routine suddenly becomes hostile territory, the fear isn't just about what might happen to you physically.
No, not at all. It's about the complete psychological betrayal. It's the highest level of psychological trigger you can imagine. You trust your house, you trust your car, and you trust the public green space that your taxes pay for.
Right.
And when that trust is just demolished, the fear is magnified. I mean, exponentially. Because your brain has no rational category to file the event under. It just doesn't compute.
So these stories, they aren't just like interesting anecdotes to tell around a campfire.
Yeah, they're case studies. They're case studies in the lasting imprint of uncertainty and helplessness on the people who witness them.
We have 3 very distinct flavors of fear we need to explore today. The first one is almost supernatural. It involves this confusing, childlike lure that leads directly to a silent, just deeply unsettling menace. The second is pure psychological warfare. I mean, relentless, unseen stalking that just spirals into chronic paranoia.
And the third?
The third is a terrifying incident of immediate, high-stakes, violent pursuit. And the trigger for it is, well, it's a completely rationalized non-issue. It makes no sense.
All 3 narratives share that crucial commonality, though. They're environments where the established social boundaries, the rule of law, the presence of other people, the expectation that humans will behave in a predictable way.
It all just breaks down.
Utterly. And we're going to slow down today, really analyze the step-by-step escalation in each of these cases.
Yeah.
We'll see precisely how quickly a benign evening can just transition into pure survival mode.
And why the sensory details, the little things they saw and heard, stick with the victims for decades. Let's start with Case File Alpha. I'm calling this one the playground, the voice, and the grin.
Okay.
And this incident is a perfect example of what happens when the fear starts small. It starts auditory, psychological, before it culminates in this just deeply unnerving visual encounter.
So what's the setup? Who are we dealing with?
The witness was around 13, so right in that sweet spot where a bike is your freedom and staying out late feels like, a real rebellion.
The setting is crucial here, then. It's the textbook suburban hideout. The source material says this park is specifically surrounded by small patches of woods on 3 sides.
Right, which isolates it.
Exactly, it's isolated. The 4th side faces a secondary road, not a main one. It's the ideal spot for teenagers precisely because it offers that visual concealment. It reduces the chance of parents or neighbors seeing you.
It's their territory.
It's their territory.
And the evening starts perfectly normally. I mean, totally mundane. There were 6 friends hanging out, making noise, being kids. Then a parental figure shows up, tells them to quiet down, and the group kind of dwindles. It goes from 6 down to 3. The witness and his friends, Tony and Rob.
Okay, so a smaller, more vulnerable group.
Much more vulnerable. And they decide to go for a brief 5-minute bike ride to this park to just chill. The witness really emphasizes how relaxing and refreshing that quick ride felt at night.
That's the emotional anchor, isn't it? That initial sense of peace and security. It's what makes the subsequent terror so jarring. You have to establish the baseline of normal before you can shatter it.
Exactly. So they get to the playground. They settle on what the witness describes as an elevated hidden surface, like a small platform on the play structure.
Again, they're seeking seclusion.
Yeah.
They're seeking a vantage point.
Right. And they're just sitting there talking. And the initial auditory experience, it begins slowly. It gives them time to rationalize.
Let's focus on that. The sound escalation. How does it start?
It starts when Tony just says, "Shh, did you hear that?"
The classic line.
The classic line.
Yeah.
He heard what he thought was a footstep, or, some kind of thump on the elevated playground, a sound that wasn't them.
And the initial reaction.
Total dismissal. I mean, they're teenagers. They look around, they see nothing, and they write it off. It's an animal, a squirrel, maybe just the old equipment creaking in the wind.
And this is where the brain tries to protect itself, right? Auditory ambiguity in darkness is almost always assigned to the least threatening source possible. It's a defense mechanism.
But then the confirmation hits. A few minutes later, the three of them, all three, hear a distinct, undeniable thud. It emanates from somewhere on the playground structure itself. It's close.
And why is that shared experience so critical?
Well, if only one person hears it, it's a possible hallucination, right? Or maybe you just misheard something.
Sure.
But when three people who are all focused on something else all confirm the precise location and sound of that thud, you suddenly have empirical evidence.
It's not in your head anymore.
Right. It's evidence of an inexplicable presence. And that's the moment the anxiety spikes. Because that initial rationalization, oh, it's just a squirrel.
It's now defunct. It doesn't work.
It's gone.
Exactly. They know for certain that someone or something else is there with them, making noise deliberately, maybe testing them, seeing how they'll react.
So they check again. They get up, walk around the structure. They even call out, hello, anyone there? Only silence. So they sit back down, still uneasy, but trying to, play it cool.
But the sound doesn't stop there, does it?
No. It shifts entirely. And this is the part that just shifts. It gets under your skin. It changes from an ambiguous, heavy thud to a clear, articulated child's voice.
Wow.
And the location is even more specific. It's coming from inside the twirling metal slide, which they were sitting right next to.
Inside the slide.
Inside.
I mean, the location is the central contradiction here. A slide is a self-contained metal tube. For a voice to emanate from inside it when they know definitively that no one has climbed up or slid down in the last half hour.
It's impossible.
It completely breaks the laws of physics and the social environment they're in. It forces these boys from maybe someone is playing a prank into the realm of the truly impossible.
And the voice is described as a toddler-like boy. And it just says simply, hello.
And what's the immediate natural reaction to hearing a child's voice seemingly trapped inside a piece of metal equipment at, 11 p.m.?
It's rescue, right? You think a kid is in trouble.
Of course.
So the witness, trying to remain rational despite the creeping fear, he assumes there must be a child stuck in there. So he slides down the slide, fully expecting to find a panicked little kid at the bottom.
But the bottom is empty.
Completely empty.
And that emptiness is the psychological abyss, isn't it?
That's
the moment where the floor drops out from under you.
The witness emphasizes this point. He says, I made it to the bottom only to find it was empty. They frantically scan the entire ground level of the park, not a soul. He states flatly that it was physically not possible for someone to have run away that quickly, especially not a young child.
And this negates the very last rational explanation they had.
It's gone.
This is the essence of psychological horror. You have undeniable sensory evidence, the sound, the voice, that is immediately and totally contradicted by physical objective reality, the emptiness.
So what does your brain do with that?
It can't process it. The brain is presented with a paradox, which is why panic is the only resulting emotion. They are no longer dealing with a known threat, they're dealing with an impossible one.
And the impossible threat decides to communicate one last time, removing all doubt about the malicious intent behind this.
What did it say?
As the witness scrambles out of the slide, the voice returns from inside the metal tube and it says, catch me.
Oh no.
That simple phrase, it transforms the situation from a potential emergency, a stuck child, to deliberate, playful menace.
It's a lure. It's a game.
It's a game. And they immediately chose flight. The witness says they bolted for our bikes.
We need to linger on the shift embedded in that phrase, catch me. It signals agency. It signals an awareness of their presence and, more importantly, their fear. It implies a game where the rules are entirely dictated by this unseen entity. They chose the only logical option, which was to run.
And the speed of their departure is crucial. The witness says they pedaled faster than we ever had. They're trying to outrun an impossibility.
You can't outrun something that doesn't obey the rules of reality.
So they make it back, the 5-minute ride back to the witness's house. They regroup quietly in the backyard, bikes thrown on the lawn, hearts racing, just trying desperately to process what happened.
They're safe now. Or they think they are.
They think they are. They're in the private, secure space of a suburban home, the backyard.
But the menace from the park, didn't stay in the park, did it?
No. And this is the truly disturbing coda. This is the part that confirms the incident was directed at them, not just some random event.
Yeah.
There is a sharp, unexpected knocking, not at the front door, not at the side of the house, on the secluded backyard gate.
Oh, that's specific.
And an unfamiliar woman's voice asks, "Were you guys just at the park before?"
Wow. Okay. That immediately connects the unexplainable event in the park to their secure private space.
Instantly.
I mean, the auditory event, you could still try to argue it away. Maybe it was acoustics or we were pranked with a hidden speaker.
Right, you could try.
But the immediate appearance of a specific unknown adult at their private gate asking a targeted question like that confirms targeted surveillance.
The witness, his heart just sinking, he peeks through a tiny crack in the wooden gate. And the visual detail here is what truly seals the terror of this whole story.
Go on.
It's a middle-aged woman standing calmly on the other side, but with this big, wide, creepy grin on her face. And she was already looking right at the crack, as if she knew exactly where he would look and exactly where he was hiding.
Okay, let's unpack the psychological impact of that grin and that stare.
It's horrifying.
The grin is not friendly, it's theatrical, it's a performance. It signals amusement at their fear. It's communicating the success of the ambush.
And the stare.
The action of looking directly through the crack a spot, the boys thought was a secure, one-way viewing point. That is the ultimate boundary violation. She is communicating non-verbally, I see you, I know you were there, and now I know where you live.
The witness tries to deny it. He says something like, "No, we just got here." And she replies with this chilling, casual skepticism, "Are you sure?"
Oh, well, it's cold.
Before finally accepting their denial and just walking away.
And the speed of it all. They pedaled as fast as they could. How did she get there?
Exactly. The speed of their departure should have been enough to avoid anyone on foot, which reinforces this feeling that the woman and the voice in the slide were somehow linked. Coordinated.
Yeah.
And the witness says he tried to rationalize her as a worried mother looking for her child, but that immediately falls apart.
Of course it does. Why the aggressive follow-up? Why the unnerving predatory grin? And where did she come from so quickly?
The encounter just remains terrifying and unsolved. And decades later, the memory of that unnaturally wide, knowing grin lingers, attaching a permanent sense of menace to the mundane memory of a park slide.
That sets a terrifying standard for this deep dive. We started with an auditory phenomenon that led to a confrontation that was fundamentally visual and deeply personal.
So now let's move from that ambiguous, almost supernatural threat to a danger based purely on visual, unrelenting surveillance in Case File Beta. All right, Case File Beta, the persistent presence. This one shifts the terror from that sort of playful, supernatural menace to a grinding, relentless psychological warfare.
And this one is more recent.
Much more recent. This happened in 2018 to an adult in a small, established suburban town. You know, the kind of place where residents often feel a heightened, almost false sense of security.
It could never happen here.
Exactly. And the witness was simply trying to clear my head after a late shift, taking a walk at a local park, a routine he'd probably done 100 times.
The environment here is one of assumed familiarity then. It's a therapeutic routine.
Yes.
He anticipates peace. But the source material says he notes immediately that the atmosphere feels quiet. Almost too quiet.
Even under the streetlights, the main path feels shadowed.
So there's this psychological preparation for an intrusion, which is the subtle warning signs that follow become so effective. He's already on edge.
And the anomaly is the man on the bench.
Yeah.
He's wearing a hoodie, pulled up tight, obscuring his face. This is despite the temperature not really warranting it. And he's staring straight ahead. Not moving, not shifting his posture, just locked onto the witness as they passed.
You know, we see people sitting alone in parks all the time. It's not inherently threatening. But the witness identifies two crucial components that transform this benign figure into a threat.
What are they?
Sustained nonverbal attention and the concealment of identity. That unwavering, focused gaze, combined with the lack of movement, it turns the figure from just a stranger into an observer.
And observers in isolation.
Become threats.
So the witness tries to dismiss the feeling, quickens his pace a little. But then the auditory confirmation hits, and it immediately shatters the routine. Footsteps behind him. And so what does the witness do next? He performs the classic test.
Ah, yes. The testing ritual.
He pauses.
And the footsteps stop.
He starts walking again.
And the footsteps start again, matching my pace exactly.
Exactly.
That synchronization removes coincidence as an explanation It is deliberate. It's controlled mirroring.
It's terrifying.
The moment an individual realizes they have lost control over their own cadence, that their movement is being dictated by an unseen force behind them, the mind shifts from simple unease to outright panic.
It's an assertion of silent dominance, isn't it? The follower isn't just walking, they're creating a mirror image. They're asserting that they are tethered to the victim's movement.
Exactly. Why is the matching pace so much more frightening than erratic footsteps or just a burst of speed?
I mean, if someone runs at you, it's a clear threat. You know what's happening.
Right. Erratic speed suggests a pursuit that might fail. There's a chance. But matching pace suggests patience. It suggests inevitability and a kind of psychological sophistication. It tells the victim, I am in control of this situation. I can maintain this relationship with you indefinitely.
It makes the follower less like a human pursuing someone.
And more like a shadow that refuses to be shaken.
The witness then tries to evade. He switches to a smaller, less lit trail that loops back toward the street. A smart move, you'd think. But as he turns, he sees the man from the bench has stood up and is walking in the exact same direction.
And how is he walking?
Slowly, matching my pace without looking directly at me. He's still staring straight ahead.
The lack of visual confirmation from the pursuer is chilling. He doesn't need to look at the witness to know exactly where he is. He only needs to hear him and maintain that precise distance.
The full panic sets in now. The witness breaks into a light jog,
And the follower does the same.
maintaining the distance perfectly. When the witness runs faster,
The follower matches perfectly.
this is just an exhausting level of psychological pressure.
This is the moment where the victim realizes they have completely lost all agency. No matter what speed they achieve, the stalker achieves the same. The escape is denied simply by the follower's consistency. It's an exercise in calculated terror.
The running continues until the witness finally reaches the street exit. He slows down.
And he has to look back.
He risks one glance back. He needs to confirm what he already knows. And the scare stops, exactly at the edge of the shadows, watching him. The pursuit ends precisely at the park boundary.
This creates a terrifying, lasting image of surveillance rather than outright aggression, doesn't it?
Yeah, he wasn't moving, just watching.
Why stop exactly at the boundary? It suggests two things. One, either he respects the social boundary of the street, which seems unlikely given his behavior, or two, the park itself is his controlled hunting ground, when his intent was purely to instill fear and mark the territory, not necessarily to engage physically in that moment.
The witness manages to get home, shaking badly, desperately trying to rationalize it all. Maybe the guy was just lonely, harmless, maybe homeless.
But the memory is too vivid, too intentional to be dismissed.
And then, the next day, the intrusion is confirmed again, much like the woman's appearance in Case File Alpha.
How so?
He returns to the park during the day, hoping the sunlight will, neutralize the fear. He finds the bench where the man sat. It's empty. But something has been scratched into the wood.
What is it? A threat.
It's described as hastily carved letters, some of them smeared, as if intended to be illegible.
Wow. Okay, why is the illegible scratch mark more terrifying than a clear threat?
I think it's because it transforms the random, generalized threat into a personal, directed violation that refuses to give the victor any closure.
Exactly. A clear threat like, I will find you, gives you motive and structure. It's horrible, but you understand it.
Yeah.
An illegible scratch mark suggests a secret language, a code that only the perpetrator understands, or maybe a message that was deliberately ruined to confuse or instill doubt.
It confirms, I was here because of you, and this is my mark.
And this marker is what triggers the long-term trauma.
The witness shifts from momentary fear to chronic, pervasive paranoia. He starts analyzing his entire environment.
Shadows moving in the corner of his eye.
Figures across the street that just vanish. Unfamiliar cars parked on his street. Lights turning on in houses that should be empty.
The fear that someone knew I had been there, that someone was waiting, completely overtakes his perception of reality. This is the definition of the haunting aspect of uncertainty. He cannot prove the threat is real, but he cannot prove it isn't, so he must live constantly on guard.
And the final encounter solidifies this feeling of being constantly monitored. Weeks later, the witness is jogging on the main street. He's actively avoiding the park now. But as he passes the edge of the tree line, he sees the figure again. Same height, same build, hood up.
Oh man. The implication of prolonged patient surveillance is perhaps the most chilling detail of this whole file. The witness felt he had been standing there for hours, just watching, waiting for him to pass.
It confirms that the initial stalking was not a one-off event. It was part of an ongoing pattern of observation.
And this leads us to the technical contradiction. The security camera twist.
The witness checks security cameras covering the park entrances and the path where he walked. And the result?
Nothing.
Nothing unusual shows up. No one is captured entering the park or the area where he walked.
This deepens the psychological damage immensely. Because the official record, the impartial technological proof, it contradicts the witness's lived reality.
It makes him question his own sanity.
It raises the essential question of this narrative. How did a figure who demonstrated such a persistent, unwavering physical presence manage to avoid or circumvent all surveillance?
Was this intentional sophistication, or was it something else? Something outside the realm of technological detection?
The stalker had no voice, no movement besides the footsteps, just that presence. And he left no digital footprint.
The certainty of the encounter is completely undermined by the lack of evidence, leaving the victim in a state of perpetual doubt.
The terror in this case isn't the physical assault, it's the removal of proof. It's the silent, chronic sense of being watched and the inability to escape a presence that is tethered to you, even when you avoid its territory.
That relentless, cold calculation is just. It's profoundly unnerving.
We've seen the calculated grin and the silent stalker. Now we have to transition to a completely different scenario. One defined by immediate, explosive, and seemingly irrational violence.
We're moving from quiet, persistent surveillance to aggressive, high-speed physical danger. Okay, our third case file, Gamma, presents a massive spike in direct physical risk. I mean, this one goes from 0 to 100 fast.
The tone is completely different.
Completely. This incident happened to a group of friends, 6 in total, at a place called the Overlook Park, late one evening around 11:00 p.m. It's a popular spot, great view of downtown, and the friends gathered there for just a simple, chill rendezvous.
What makes this story so immediately terrifying is the sheer magnitude of the reaction compared to the trigger. They were in a public park, late at night, in a large group, all factors that typically deter random aggression.
Right. You feel safe in numbers.
You're supposed to.
So the catalyst is mundane. A friend suggests they light some Roman candles. The source is clear, fireworks are legal where they are, and they aren't causing a major disruption.
Okay.
But to keep this minor transgression private, they move to a more secluded area of the park called the Loop. It's described as a huge cul-de-sac surrounded by thick woods, only accessible by a long, winding driveway.
The atmosphere, however, begins with immediate warning signs of intrusion. As they walk in, they note several cars parked around the cul-de-sac with their lights off.
The witness correctly describes this as strange for such a late hour for a scenic overlook.
It suggests these people weren't there for the view. They were hiding or conducting some activity that required privacy and darkness.
And the first sign of trouble targets them directly, the unlit truck. A small truck parked behind them suddenly starts moving without its headlights on.
That's never good.
No, it makes a U-turn and drives slowly toward them. They immediately hide, recognizing the hostile intent. The truck passes slowly, then U-turns again and heads back toward the entrance.
The double U-turn is a key behavioral indicator. It's a deliberate check, a visual sweep of the area. It shows the driver isn't just passing by, they are confirming the group's presence and establishing a perimeter.
The friends correctly realized they were being observed and targeted. Their stomachs sank, the witness says.
And at this precise, highly tense moment,
the critical mistake is made. A friend lights one Roman candle. Sparks fly into the air, a little bit of light in the darkness.
And the reaction to this tiny, brief explosion of light is what defines the entire incident.
The truck immediately turns on its headlights, blasting them, and starts driving slowly and menacingly toward the group.
This slow, deliberate intimidation, followed by violent pursuit, suggests they didn't just annoy a neighbor. They disrupted something far more serious. Perhaps illicit activity. That warranted an immediate, extreme defensive response.
So why is that shift from silent observation to high beam pursuit such a psychological attack?
Because the high beams literally strip the group of their hiding space and their anonymity. It puts them under this intense scrutiny and signals overwhelming physical advantage. If this were merely an annoyed neighbor, the response would be shouting or maybe calling the police.
Right, a normal person's reaction.
Instead, the driver's intent is immediately physical. He's treating these teenagers as trespassers who need to be punished violently.
So the group instantly reacts. They sprint into the woods, thick, unpathed, full of bushes and tall grass. They are trying to find concealment, hoping the driver will stop at the tree line.
But the driver shows an extreme level of commitment and a total disregard for property.
The truck drives over the curb.
Over the curb.
And through the grass directly toward them, laying on the horn and the high beams.
That action-risking vehicle damage and breaking all social rules of the road is a clear indicator of intent to harm, or at the very least, cause serious physical intimidation.
This is not casual harassment. This is a serious, coordinated pursuit.
And then the situation escalates even further. It confirms this isn't a single person reacting badly.
No, they hear voices shouted from the truck, and then more headlights turn on from the loop.
Oh, wow.
The group realizes they are surrounded by multiple cars and multiple people, and during their panic sprint, they become separated.
This turns the flight into a hunting scenario.
A hunt, exactly.
They weren't just fleeing one angry person, they stumbled into a coordinated group that was already there for some other reason.
The group, now separated, hides in a sunken part of the woods. For about 15 minutes, they're just in terrified silence. And the central question running through their minds, as the source states, was, we didn't understand why they were so upset about the fireworks.
That lack of a rational motive is the constant backdrop to the extreme violence, isn't it?
Yes. The fireworks are legal. No property was damaged. Yet the reaction is to destroy property by driving over the curb and to actively hunt human beings.
This implies the individuals parked earlier in the loop were engaged in an activity they were desperate to protect, and the sparks from the Roman candle basically acted like a flare, signaling their location.
And the situation becomes truly life-threatening when the witness manages to regroup with one of his friends. The friend reveals that one of the pursuing men had run right past him in the dark, and he was carrying what looked like a knife or some kind of melee weapon.
A melee weapon?
Yeah.
That detail absolutely changes the intent from harassment or minor territorial defense to attempted grievous bodily harm.
This was not a dispute. This was an attempted violent assault. They were being hunted by armed individuals.
The severity of this violation cannot be overstated. A public park, a recreational activity, transformed instantaneously into a dark, wooded hunting ground with armed people chasing teenagers.
The final escape is a desperate, calculated sprint. They have to go deeper into the woods to bypass the truck, which had reappeared near the entrance, effectively blocking the road out.
A trap.
They only stop pursuing when the teenagers finally reach the main road leading out of the loop.
The truck driver's decision to stop pursuing them at the park entrance echoes the boundary established by the hooded stalker in case file beta.
That's a great point.
It suggests the danger is territorial. The park is the zone of control, and outside it, the risk calculation changes for the aggressors.
The witness's final thought sums up the sheer visceral horror of this encounter. I truly didn't know what was going to happen. The motive remains completely unknown, leaving the survivors with a permanent trauma related to that explosive, irrational violence.
Okay, we've explored 3 dramatically different, but I think equally terrifying incidents. We've moved through the playground's haunting voice and that grinning woman.
The silent, relentless hooded stalker. And the aggressive, armed pursuit over nothing more than a few fireworks. Now, we have to bring these accounts together to draw some crucial insights into why these specific types of encounters are so deeply frightening for you, the listener.
The foundational commonality that unites these 3 disparate narratives is the profound violation of the safe space. In every single case, the public park, a location designated for communal leisure, safety, and predictability, was instantly transformed into a zone of immediate, unexplained danger.
And that psychological betrayal is the absolute core of the horror.
It has to be.
We trust these spaces because we assume rational rules apply. If someone is annoyed, they shout. If there's an emergency, they call for help.
Right.
If someone is following you, they eventually have to stop or engage. But in all 3 of these files, that assumption was shattered.
The physical location was breached, but more importantly, the mental boundary of security, that expectation of safety in public, was completely demolished.
And that leads directly to the most terrifying element across all 3 cases, the definitive role of uncertainty. We have to revisit the motives, or rather, the lack thereof.
Let's do it. Case 1.
In Case Alpha, the teenage witnesses were confronted by an auditory impossibility, the voice in the empty slide. And that led to an unnerving visual confirmation, the woman's calculated grin.
But the motive is lost in that strange coordination. Was the voice a lure for the woman? Were they working together? Was it something else entirely?
We don't know the why.
In Case Beta, the adult witness endured silent, perfect stalking, an illegible scratch mark on the bench, and finally, the complete vanishing from surveillance footage. The motive for the persistent surveillance is zero. Why stalk without speaking? Why leave no evidence?
There's no endgame we can see.
None.
And in case gamma, the extreme reaction, driving a truck over a curb, laying on the horn, and bringing a deadly weapon against teenagers who lit a spark. The supposed motive, annoyance over fireworks, does not match the severity of the reaction, which was attempted assault.
So what hidden activity were they so desperate to protect?
We'll never know.
When an event has a known cause, a robbery, a clear argument, a known animal attack, the brain can categorize it and eventually process the fear. But when the stimulus is that intense and the cause is unknowable, the psychological impact is profound and long-lasting.
The uncertainty is vastly more terrifying than any known outcome.
It has to be. You can't manage an unknown threat. The lingering paranoia, the feeling that someone is still watching, the surveillance camera failure, the persistent memory of the grin or the matching footsteps, that is a direct result of the unsolved nature of the crime.
The victim is left haunted, forced to continuously replay the facts and try to assign a motive that just isn't there.
And we also need to recognize the crucial role of the sensory details and the pacing in these narratives. The outline of the story relies on specific, immediate sensations that accelerate the fear response. These sources aren't polished reports. They are visceral memories defined by shock and speed.
Think about the details that stick with you, the listener, because they are so tactile. The damp smell of grass and earth juxtaposed with the sudden, sharp sound of the truck's horn. The way the darkness in Case Beta suddenly felt too quiet. The metallic echo of the child's voice inside the slide.
The visual shock of the woman already looking through the crack in the gate.
These visceral markers ground the stories in reality, which makes the inexplicable elements feel even more horrifying.
The witnesses are telling us precisely which sensory data triggered their flight response, whether it was the sound of footsteps matching my pace exactly, or the sight of high beams suddenly illuminating an armed hunter in the woods.
And finally, there's the lasting imprint. All three witnesses describe long-term behavioral changes or ongoing paranoia.
They avoid the park.
They check their mirrors constantly. They feel watched.
This is an understanding of how fear and trauma related to unexplained or irrational events can reshape a person's relationship with their entire environment, even the safest corners of suburbia.
For the stalker victim, that tension never truly dissipates. No. Even years later, driving past the tree line near that park entrance, they feel the urge to check the shadows, convinced that vague hooded figure is still standing there, passively observing anyone who dares to walk alone at night.
The memory is tethered to the location. The place itself is now haunted for them.
This has been a deep dive into some profoundly unsettling territory. It really reminds us that the most frightening things often happen when routine and predictability are disrupted by the intentional, yet inexplicable, actions of strangers. We owe a debt to the witnesses who shared these raw, deeply unsettling experiences that took place in public spaces.
This raises an important question, though, something for you, the listener, to mull over long after this deep dive ends.
What's that?
These incidents all occurred in public spaces, places designed for anonymity and communal freedom. If we cannot trust the security of the public park or the predictability of human motivation in these shared, unguarded environments, what space truly is safe?
Where is safe from the quiet intentions of strangers or the inexplicable phenomena lurking just out of sight?
That's the real question.
The biggest horror, as we've seen today, isn't finding the darkness in a secluded forest where you already expect it to be. It's realizing the darkness is waiting right at the edge of the streetlights, patiently watching you from the comfort of a public bench.
Or hiding within the metal shell of a children's slide.
The lack of an answer, the lack of motive.
That's the true hook. That's what stays with you.
Something to mull over the next time you take a quiet walk after dark. Look closer at the shadows and maybe, just maybe, check who's watching you from the edge of the tree line.